Yo, welcome back to the MMA Fight Realm. Thanks for tuning in. If you are new, it is your boy Chris, and I'm back with another picks and predictions video. This time for UFC 302, Islam Makhachev taking on Dustin Poirier in the main event. Hope you guys like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think of these picks in the comments, and let me know your picks in the comments as well. Leading off the card, we got Andre Lima taking on Mitch Raposo. Andre Lima, 5 knockout finishes. He's been to decision twice, so he's shown the cardio, and we saw he's got some dangerous stand-up. We saw it on Contender Series, and we got a glimpse of it in his debut against Igor Severino until he got bit. Watch that one back. That's probably going to be the last time we ever see a fighter get bit in the UFC. Andre Lima versus Igor Severino. Now, Andre Lima gets the win by disqualification, but he did win that first round on 2 judges' scorecards. He had a lead elbow that was just super unorthodox. It stunned Igor Severino, but he made it look technical. He made it look clean, look like something he's been working on for a very long time. He's got a kickboxing background, and he's a serious problem. He's undefeated. He's got amazing get-ups. His takedown defense was tested in that fight against Igor Severino. He got taken down a couple of times, but he did not accept bottom position whatsoever. He even used submissions to find his way up, and just pure athleticism. This dude is pretty strong for the flyweight weight class, and he's going to be a problem for anyone, in my opinion, as of right now. And now he's getting a short notice replacement, Mitch Raposo. And, more tape needs to be seen on this guy for sure, but just from what I've seen, he lost on Contender to Jake Hadley. He lost on Ultimate Fighter, and he looked decent in that fight against Jake Hadley before. It only took 1 takedown for Jake Hadley to lock in that rear naked choke, but Mitch looked decent with the boxing, and he got a takedown of his own in that fight against Jake Hadley, but Jake Hadley, not the best takedown defense, so I can't really credit that. And it doesn't really help that after that fight, he goes and fights guys with records like 3-2 and 2-0 and 7-4. Guys who I think he should be beating if he is any UFC caliber. So I think he's heavy on that lead leg, and Lima, with the kickboxing background, he's got great calf kicks. He's gonna chop up that calf, and Mitch, he's got a puncher's chance, or maybe he can be heavy on the grappling here, but I don't see that being the case. I think he's got a puncher's chance just like anyone else in the UFC. But Lima, who's had the longer camp, more experienced striker because of that kickboxing background, I think he should get it done, and he should get it done by finish. So I think he's gonna be the busier fighter of the two. I don't see it going the distance, so I'm gonna go Lima by finish here in this one. And again, this was announced not too long ago, so maybe more tape study is required, but for now, I'm sticking with the prospect Andre Lima by finish. Next fight on the card, we got Josellyne Edwards taking on Ailin Perez. Now, there's going to be some extra energy from both of these two, considering what happened at the UFC Performance Institute. They fought, if you guys don't know, they fought in that gym. But for the most part, man, apart from whatever happened, this is a striker versus grappler matchup here. Josellyne, she's been famous for point fighting her way to a decision, just pitter patter strikes that add up on the stats. And I'm about to get into some stats in a second, but she got it done against Ramona Pascual and Ji Yeon Kim, and she makes it look good to the judges with that pitter patter striking. That's what I'll say. She landed 164 significant strikes on Ramona Pascual, and then 101 significant strikes on Ji Yeon Kim. Now, I don't know who's tallying those as significant, but that's what they're doing. And if that's what they're doing, it looks good on the stats, looks good to the judges. Like I said, it adds up, and she is the busier fighter in those fights against Pascual and Ji Yeon Kim, and the point fighting was effective there. But in her last 2 against Lucy Purilova and Nora Cornell, she looked very questionable. In that fight against Lucy Purilova, I thought Purilova won that. You can make the case that she won rounds 1 and 2 because Purilova just took her down, and Josellyne had no answer off the ground. She could not find her way up in both of those rounds, and like I said, I thought she lost that fight. Judges raised her hand, And I mean, it is what it is. I thought karma might have played a bit of a role into her next one against Nora Cornell, because instead of this pitter-patter stand-up, she comes out with a heavy wrestling game against Nora Cornell, with a Muay Thai background. I guess Josellyne wanted to test her wrestling, and it was working. Nora was getting taken down, and Josellyne was 5 for 8 on takedowns, and she had about 8 minutes of control time in that fight, and she lost. So, maybe being in Paris had something to do with that, Nora Cornell's backyard, but I think karma also played a role there, because she got her hand raised against Lucy Pudilova, and then right in the next one, she gets the loss using control time and takedowns. So, I don't think she is the better grappler of the two. I think it's clear Ailin Perez is going to look to get this fight to the ground. She hasn't shown much striking, and that's a bit of a concern for me. But and she has some cardio issues. We've seen her make big mistakes when she's out of gas in these fights, and we saw that in her debut against Stephanie Egger. And Perez, she's really on a 2-fight win streak, but it's against Ashley Evans Smith, who was 6-5, and and then Lucy Pudilova, the opponent who they both share, but she got the win. Well, they both got the win, even though I thought Lucy beat Josellyne. I thought that Ailin did great in those first 2 rounds against Lucy Pudilova, but in that 3rd round, when the cardio was out and she was starting to make big mistakes, Lucy had her back, and Lucy had her in a rear naked choke, but Ailin was able to fight it, and she won on the judges' scorecards. Now, I think Ailin's heavy wrestling pressure is gonna do it again. I think she's gonna get Josellyne down, and Josellyne has shown that she struggles with wrestlers. I think she's gonna struggle again here, trying to fight off of her back, and she's not gonna win this one. I gotta go with Ailin Perez to get this fight done by decision. Just heavy dominant ground and pound, or heavy dominant grappling, and it's been proven to get it done before against Edwards. I don't think she's found an answer yet, especially not against someone as top heavy as Ailin Perez is going to be. So give me Ailin Perez by decision. Next fight, we got Bassel Hafez taking on Mickey Gall. Hafez is taking on Mickey Gall in his first full fight camp in the UFC. Now remember, he was coming off a short notice fight against Jack Della Maddalena, and he got to showcase his skill set, took some hard shots from JDM, was able to take JDM down, and he won a round on all judges' scorecards. So JDM top 10 now, and he only had 4 days to make weight. Considering all that though, a great performance against JDM. He's got an 8-4 record. Not the prettiest record, but he's only 32, and that is a fighter's prime. And he's never been finished. One of the losses he's got, he's been able to get it back in the regional scene. And with all that said, he's taking on 7-5 Mickey Gall. Mickey Gall making his return to the UFC after not fighting for 2 years. And just trust me, guys, there's no one missing out on Mickey Gall. All right, he's a decent grappler, but that's just about it. And he's very one-dimensional. He's shown that. No knockout wins. The striking is terrible, and there's really not much of a path for victory here for him unless Hafez gasses out. I mean, Hafez, he's got a good submission game. He's got a good understanding of these submissions himself. Look, he's got an armbar, triangle choke, Kimura. He controlled JDM for damn near half the fight. I mean, I think Hafez is going to maul Mickey Gall, and I don't think Mickey Gall stands a chance. It's a long layoff. He's taking on a guy who's trying to rewrite this loss and show the UFC that he is UFC caliber, and he is well deserved of a full camp fight. And now he's taking on Mickey Gall. I just think Bassel Hafez all the way in this one. Give me Bassel Hafez by finish. Next one, we got Alex Morono taking on Niko Price. Now this is a rematch. These two fought back in 2017, and Morono almost had Price out of there in the first round. He hit him with a spinning back fist. He dropped him, and he started landing some ground and pound. I thought the bell saved Niko Price in that first round, and you know, it is what it is. In that second round, Niko Price, with that forward pressure, he starts catching up to Morono, forces Morono to start fighting on the back foot, and that is when Morono looks his worst, I will say. So, you know, Morono, he gets put up to the cage. Price starts throwing bombs, and he lands one clean and drops Morono. Tough loss for Morono back in his hometown. I think, you know, he was on his way to a win in that fight if it wasn't for him just getting pressured up and starting. I think he, you know, might have had some cardio issues in there. Started gassing out and started fighting on the back foot, was accepting it way too much. So, you know, it's hard to say whether these two will look the same because, you know, it's been 7 years since that fight, and these two are much older. And Niko, you know, he's gone through double knee surgery. He's getting knocked out a lot more. Man, he hasn't won a fight since that double knee surgery. And just the trajectory that he's going on, I don't like it. And I just gotta favor Morono here. He's still having close fights with Buckley. You know, close fight in his last one with Court McGee. I thought he could have made it look more definitive, but he kind of fights to his opponent's caliber sometimes, and that leaves him in jeopardy. But I think he will be the better of the two. He was the better of the two in the first one until he got caught. And, you know, Price is going to have to knock him out in here. And he just hasn't done that since. He hasn't done that in a very long time. So I'm counting on Alex Morono here to get it done by decision. I think he rewrites his loss against Niko Price. It was turned to a no contest because Price, you know, he popped for marijuana use, but marijuana use, come on. Morono should get it done here by decision though. Next fight, Phil Rowe taking on Jake Matthews. Now, initially going into this fight, I thought to myself, Jake Matthews all the way. But, you know, after watching some tape, Jake Matthews has been through it in his last 5 fights, man. You know, a loss to Morales where he struggled with the grappling and the reach disadvantage. He's going to be at a reach disadvantage in this one. And, you know, Sean Brady's grappling in that fight against Jake Matthews was too much. He tired out Matthews and subbed him. Andre Fialho was tagging up Jake Matthews before he landed that big shot that won him the fight. You know, Semmelsberger knocked Jake Matthews down 3 times in that fight. You know, I thought the ref was giving him a lot of chances. He's been through the ringer. He's been through the ringer in his last 5, but he's well-rounded. I wouldn't say he's particularly good in one area, but he's generally decent in all aspects of MMA. You know, and that comes with 19 fights in the UFC. He's only 29 years old, and now he's taking on Phil Rowe. This one's a toss-up. This one is a toss-up. Phil is well-rounded himself. He's got a 100% finish rate, believe it or not. You know, 6 knockouts and 4 submissions. He's out there looking to get the finish, and if he doesn't get the finish, he is 0-2 to the decision. So, you know, something to note there. I think we are likely in the same situation here, though. You know, I can see Jake winning this one by decision. I can see Phil knocking out Jake Matthews, as crazy as that is. And I'm going to lean Jake Matthews here, but I am not confident in this pick at all. I think he can mix in the wrestling, and if he doesn't get caught, he wins this one by decision. So I got to lean Jake Matthews. You know, you never know what you're going to get out of this guy, but at this point. But 29, all of these fights, hopefully the experience comes into play, and hopefully he's waking it up in his career. And I think he can get it done against Phil Rowe. So give me Jake Matthews by decision. Next fight, we got Joe Solecki taking on Grant Dawson. Grappler versus grappler. Solecki is a lot more one-dimensional in my opinion. You know, the guy, he wants nothing to do with the stand-up in his fights, and it's worked out for him for the most part. He's 5-2 in the UFC, not without, you know, some really close fights though. You know, in that fight against Jared Gordon, because Gordon was able to use his defensive wrestling pressure, I just think that, you know, Joe Solecki was struggling in that one. He got reversed more than a couple times, and Solecki, when he's on his back, he accepts it way too much. He had a hard time finding his way back up against Jared Gordon. Jared Gordon exposed that, and he was able to get the win over Solecki. And then against Alex da Silva, Alex da Silva drops Solecki in that first round, controls him for the entire round, and you know, Solecki, like I said, had a hard time finding his way back up off his back. You know, Alex da Silva reversed Solecki in the third round, and you could make the case, you know, if we know he had some fence grabs in that fight. Alex da Silva had some fence grabs in that fight and in the second round, and he got a point taken away, but could have been a draw. Could have been a draw if it wasn't for that, because you know, in his last one, look at him, man. He goes up against Jakar close, holding on to the armbar way too much, and close picks him up, slam finishes him. You know, so with Solecki, you know he's gonna grapple. You know he's gonna grapple. You know that's his only way to win, and you know, he's only got one knockout back in the regionals, but it was against a guy who's 5-9, and come on, let's not even go there with that. I don't think Solecki's not gonna knock out Grant Dawson. We know Dawson's got a very questionable chin, considering it only took a few punches from Bobby Green to knock him out in his last one, but I'm just not impressed with Solecki. I think he's too one-dimensional, and now he's taking on another grappler in Grant Dawson, who's, I think he's got much more tools. I think he's got much more tools and willingness to at least strike with his opponents. He's got a great calf kick, decent striking, but it's no secret that Dawson is looking to get his fights to the ground as well. So, you know, he fought Jared Gordon as well, you know, the opponent that these two share, and Grant was able to, you know, ground and pound Jared Gordon. He was able to control Jared Gordon a lot better, and, you know, he just was taking a bit more chances than Solecki, and Solecki just, you know, would get the body lock on Jared Gordon and hold on for his dear life, you know. So I think Dawson, I just think Dawson is the better wrestler of the two, and there's no doubt in my mind, you know, this fight's going to the ground. I think, you know, usually two grapplers, they cancel each other out and they end up striking, but Solecki just doesn't care to throw hands. He doesn't care to throw hands one bit, and it's cost him in his last ones. It's gonna cost him here. I'm picking Grant Dawson to get it done. Dawson, 10 fights in the UFC, and the only fighter to stop him was Bobby Green. Credit to Bobby Green. He's a great striker, veteran of the game. There's no shame in losing to that one. And Solecki, just too one-dimensional for me to take him here. He's taking on a guy who's also got extremely good grappling. I'm going to go Dawson by finish or decision. Next fight, we got Roman Kopylov taking on Cesar Almeida. Now, Kopylov coming off that loss to Anthony Hernandez, but you know, before that, he was looking really good. Before he got finished, he had a great start. You know, just the pressure caught up to him. The wrestling of Anthony Hernandez caught up to him and got him down and got him out. You know, it was one of those where Kopylov could have ran away with it, but just the stamina was not there. And that's mainly been the problem for Roman in the UFC. Guys who can mix it up, can take him down. Carl Roberson took him down. Duraev took him down. Hernandez took him down. This time, he's facing a kickboxer, all right? And these two are famous for both being really good strikers. Cesar Almeida, 5-0 in MMA. The transition has come from kickboxing, and he's looked great. He's looked great. Good striker, although we haven't seen much of it because he's getting tested in the grappling by, you know, in his Contender Series fight and in his debut against Dylan Budka. Just guys do not want to try him on the feet. They want to take him down, and he's shown up, man. He's got great get-ups. He's got great defensive wrestling, and we saw it on Contender, and we saw it in his last one. If you look at the level of competition, though, in MMA, it's not anyone impressive, man. Dylan Budka, 7-2. Lucas Fernando on Contender, 9-1. And back in the regional scene, you know, just not anybody impressive as well. You know, he's looked good. I will say he's looked good, but I have to side with experience here, and that's Roman Kopylov. Kopylov has fought more times in the UFC than this guy has fought MMA. And that speaks volumes, because the level of competition that Kopylov is facing, he's improving every time. And with that considered, I think Roman's experience should favor him here. I do think Almeida can expose Kopylov, though. You know, Kopylov has been very hittable in his fights sometimes, and you know, I just don't think that I can pick Almeida with the level of competition he's beat yet. So I gotta go Kopylov here, And I think Roman, he's going to be the faster of the two, given the age difference as well. So Roman should get this one done. Roman by finish or by decision in this fight. Next one, we got Elizeu, Zaleski dos Santos taking on Randy Brown. Zaleski is 10-3 in the UFC, coming off that draw against Rinat Fakhretdinov. Now, close fights are what Zaleski has been getting himself into lately, besides the whooping he put on Benoit Saint-Denis. You know, who we know, Benoit Saint-Denis has poor striking defense. Let's just be honest, all right? But, you know, Zaleski, he's got that capoeira background, so he's got great kicks, high and low, and he goes inside and outside on the calf kicks. He's an experienced striker. He's got great cardio. We saw that in the last one. He was able to push the pace on Rinat in that third round and almost had him out of there. But, you know, we saw that against Rinat, you know, he had that liver shot. Like I said, this guy's got crazy leg kicks. He favors it a lot, just like his opponent, Randy Brown, you know. But, you know, like I said, close fights, man. Split decision win against Abubakar Nurmagomedov. A split decision loss against Muslim Salikov. And sure, you know, he's always a threat for the knockout, but he hasn't gotten a knockout since 2018. So for Zaleski, you know, he's been taking on a lot of guys who will mix it up. But now I think he's taking on Brown, and this should be a stand-up affair for the most part. Randy Brown, he looks to utilize his 6'3" height and reach to his advantage in all of his fights. And like Elizeu, he's got some dangerous kicks himself. You know, he's got great footwork. In his last one, he got it done in the first round against Salikov, and I know they share that opponent, but in my opinion, it's tough to compare Salikov, who was already 39 when he fought Zaleski at 36. So, you know, Salikov is on his way out of there. You know, what I will say is I don't like how much Salikov was chopping away at Brown's leg before he got finished, because going into this one, Randy has got to be aware that Zaleski's got some great calf kicks for this weight class, man. He's got good calf kicks. He's got good kicks in general. That capoeira background is going to play a big role. They could be fight-ending calf kicks for Randy Brown if he's not on top of it, if he's not checking it. And Randy, you know, he's a veteran of the game himself. 17 fights in the UFC, 12-5 in that span. He's only 33 years old, so he's had to adapt and grow while fighting for the biggest promotion. I think 12-5 speaks for itself. You know, he's done very well. He's also addressing his weaknesses in the grappling. He goes and trains with Sean Brady and Joe Pyfer up in Philly. And, you know, guys who will test him in the grappling, he's starting to address that. And I think this step up in competition, you know, it's warranted. But I'm picking him to get it done. I think I can expect him to just use his footwork to keep this one standing, avoid the clinch with Zaleski, because Zaleski is dangerous in that clinch as well. And, you know, if it's at Randy's range, I think he can pick apart Elizeu. And, you know, but Zaleski's got that fight IQ, and he knows he's got to get inside on Randy's range. He knows he's got to throw bombs, and I can see Zaleski trying to use those leg kicks to get inside, but Brown has got to be aware. He's got to have something for those leg kicks. Zaleski is very tough to put away, so I'm going to lean Randy Brown by decision in this fight. Good matchup here. Good matchup, but I'm going Randy Brown by decision. Next fight, we got Jailton Almeida taking on Alexandr Romanov. Now, I'll start this one by saying the 17-2 record by Romanov is very deceiving. Very deceiving. I think his best win there is Marcos Rogerio de Lima. You know, he got Marcos Rogerio de Lima down several times, used his heavy one-dimensional grappling game plan, and that's what he does. You know, he's a heavy grappler. If he can't get you down, clearly he's a fish out of water. We saw that in his last two against Marcin Tybura and Alexander Volkov. He was a fish out of water, man. He got exposed. But lucky for him, he's taking on Almeida, another guy who hasn't shown much will to strike at all, but he's 6-1 in the UFC. Jailton Almeida, He's using his one-dimensional grappling as well, and it's worked out for him, man. In his last one, I was worried about picking him because I thought Blades can counter wrestle him, but Jailton Almeida just made picking up Curtis Blades look easy. He made taking him down look flawed, like effortless, man. And he got him down 9 times before he just, he held on to that single leg way too long, and Blades let off on those hammer fists. Blades was able to get a comeback win, salute to him, but he was getting dismantled in that fight by Jailton Almeida before that. And, you got to hope that Jailton Almeida is going to learn from that. Making this one short, I think Almeida gets a bounce back win here, man. Haven't seen Romanov in some time, and I think he's taking on a guy who will meet him in all the areas where he's good at himself. Jailton Almeida, I can see him getting it done by the submission, but I wouldn't be surprised if it goes to decision and these two just end up in a jiu-jitsu battle for 3 rounds. But give me Jailton Almeida here by finish or by decision. Next one, we got Kevin Holland taking on Michał Oleksiejczuk. Very quick returns for the both of these two, except for Michał. He's coming off a club and sub loss to Michał Pereira, where Michał Pereira was landing several hard body shots. If they were kicks, they were punches. Oleksiejczuk, he curled up, left his neck open for a rear naked choke, and Michał Pereira caught him and got him out of there in the first round. And now he's making a quick turnaround very fast here, just basically after an ass whooping in his fight. He got destroyed by Michał Pereira. And for Holland, a decision loss to Michael Venom Page, where he got caught a couple times, but for the most part, it was pitter patter. It was pitter patter strikes. You could see it in the stats. Only 41 significant strikes landed for Michael Venom Page against Kevin Holland. Michael Venom Page, he got his hand raised, and both of these two are coming off losses. I think Holland, his quick turnaround is a lot more justified than Michał's, just for the simple fact that he went to a decision, only got hit with 41 significant strikes, where there's, Michał, he got clubbed and subbed. So, but Holland has still got to be aware of the dangers of Michał. Michał is prone to the sub, but besides that, he is very durable. Besides that fight against Pereira, he's been very durable. He's looked at a lot of, he took a lot of shots from Chidi and Njokuani, and he was still able to get on the inside of Chidi and Njokuani and land some shots of his own. He's majorly letting off with his hands, though. He's only thrown 1 leg kick in his last 5 fights. So he's top heavy, does not use the lower half much. I think he's dangerous and durable, but for the most part, the more you see him out there, the more predictable he becomes. And now he's taking on Holland, a guy who's very durable. He mixes it up very well. I think he's going to be tough for Michał. And Holland, despite being on the 2-fight skid, he hasn't looked the worst. I wouldn't say he's looked the worst. And, he's back up at middleweight for this one, where he went 7-4 with 5 finishes. That knee to the body finish over Anthony Hernandez is aging well, and I think he can do the same here in this one. He's very well rounded. He's proven it in his fights. He mixes up his striking with the kicks a lot more than Michał. And, Michał just being top heavy striker lately, I think Holland has the style that can make it a very long night from Michał Oleksiejczuk. And, with a 7-inch reach advantage, Holland has got to utilize that distance, keep Michał at bay, pick him apart. I think he's the quicker of the two. I expect him to get a bounce back win here. I'm picking Kevin Holland by finish in this fight. Next one, we got the co-main event. Sean Strickland taking on Paulo Costa. Now the question for me going into this one was, can Paulo Costa knock out Sean Strickland? Because other than that, I can see Strickland running away with this one by decision. Not 9 times out of 10, 10 times out of 10. All right, it's 5 rounds. That favors Strickland. Strickland was just in a 5-round fight, and you know what you're getting out of him at this point. Over 20 fights in the UFC, and he's got that Philly shell with the good movement. He's looking to outstrike his opponents for the most part. He's looking to, get into a war and outstrike his opponents, and he's got a lot better with just having bigger moments in his fights. We saw that against Adesanya. he was able to knock him down, and he made it look very clear that he won that fight. But then in his title defense against Dricus, I did pick Dricus to win that one because I felt like Dricus could mix it up, and when you just mix it up on Sean Strickland, you show him different levels, you show him different things, he struggles in there. And he got taken down a couple times in that fight, and it was a very close fight though. Strickland still made it a close fight, and he's very worthy of a rematch against Dricus, but he's getting a fight here against Paulo Costa. And like I said, man, Paulo Costa, he's gonna have a puncher's chance, but he's gonna have to do it in the first 2 rounds, because other than that, the cardio has always been a bit of an issue for Paulo. And this is a 5-round fight. Paulo is dangerous, but he hasn't gotten a knockout win since 2018. And I know he almost had Whitaker out of there, but Whitaker was able to, bounce back and get his hand raised in that one. And that's important. That stands out to me. It's hard to know what version we're going to get out of Paulo Costa. We're going to get the version that almost is a killer and almost finishes Robert Whitaker in the first round, or are we going to get the one that fought Marvin Vettori, or the one that fought Israel Adesanya, and that one was terrible. So it's just very unpredictable with this guy, Paulo. I can see Strickland's punches adding up, his style just being too much for Costa, the jab being unstoppable. I'm going to go with Strickland here. Much more improved, and he's the level of competition he's been fighting lately. I think he should be able to pick apart Paulo Costa. Give me Sean Strickland by decision in this fight. Next up, we got the main event. Islam Makhachev taking on Dustin Poirier. Number 1 pound for pound, Islam Makhachev hasn't lost a fight since 2015. 4 finishes in his last 5. He subs Dan Hooker in the first. He subs Charles Oliveira, all right, in the second. He head kick finishes Volkanovski in the first. I'm grown to become a fan of this guy, man. He's 32 years old. I think we're witnessing him at his prime right now. It's tough to pick against him no matter who he is fighting. Credit to Dustin Poirier. He has a chance for sure. I think he's gonna have to keep it standing though, and try to knock out Makhachev. But how does he keep it standing? He got taken down by Benoit Saint-Denis in his last one 3 times. He got taken down by Michael Chandler 3 times. When he fought Khabib way back, Khabib took him down 7 times. Pulling guillotines is not going to save you, and that's been his strategy in his form of takedown defense. So, man, it just doesn't work with these high-level grapplers. Does he try something different? I expect him to. I expect him to not try and pull a guillotine. I can expect him to try to keep the fight standing, but we could see a total domination here out of Islam Makhachev, and no one should be surprised, all right? I'm picking Makhachev here to continue his reign as number 1 pound for pound and lightweight champ, man. And still, I think, as a fan, you got to root. As a fan for UFC and, coming from America, I got to root for Dustin Poirier to win, but it's really hard, man. It's really hard to see him. It's really hard to pick against Islam Makhachev right now in this time, man, in his prime. And I think he's going to get this one done. So give me Islam Makhachev. And there you guys have it, man. Those are the picks for UFC 302. Best bets video coming out very soon. Hope you guys like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think of these picks in the comments. I'm out. Peace.